Welcome to the Luke Coutinho Show, where we can learn to reimagine our lifestyle.
Bruce, it's such a pleasure to see you again. We had the most amazing time in the Maldives in October last year. I had the privilege to share the stage with you, spend time with your beautiful partner, Margaret, and you left me with a gift that I've used with over 100 different people since we met, and it's only been mind-blowing, Bruce. Mind-blowing. You left me with and the amount of lives we've been able to impact. So I have to start off by saying thank you and welcome to Reimagine Your Lifestyle.
Luke, I am so honored to be here with you for the very important reason that you've taken some theoretical work and brought it into the world as real practice, and you have been helping so many people get their health back and evolve to a higher level. So it's my honor to be in your community, and I just want to say how much I appreciate everything you do from your heart to your head and your ability to touch people. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Bruce. And you have a huge fan following in India. So hopefully you're going to plan a trip down, or we're going to have to figure out a way to bring you and Margaret down where you can spread your magic. You have a huge fan following over here. But thank you so much, Bruce. I want to start off by telling you, sharing with you how you changed my life in so many different ways. I've literally been your student since 2003 when I started to read the work that you were doing and this biology of belief. I was studying anatomy at that point, and I was like, what is this good-looking guy trying to tell people? Everything he's saying, are medical doctors accepting this? Are they like, what are they thinking about something that someone's bringing out an energy of the human mind and subconscious, and it's making absolute sense, backed with science and everything else you do. So, Bruce, I would love for you to start off with your journey from a biologist to talking today to people around the world. I've spoken to you in the Maldives of the lives you've impacted, shared with you stories of our patients who've listened to your podcasts and your content while they're getting chemotherapy. I've spoken to you about all of those examples of people who have used their subconscious mind over and above their medical treatment to heal them. So I would love for you to take us through your journey from a biologist and now there's spirituality, there's spontaneous evolution with consciousness. Please, over to you, Bruce.
Luke, thank you so very much. And I have to say, I've had this most wonderful career. The universe has just fed me information. It was like I was looking at the world as a biologist and saying how this beautiful mechanism works. I ended up being a professor in a medical school, teaching about cells and biology, genetics, and how the things work and all that. And I was teaching what people have learned. And let me bring this up because it's so important for the audience. They do not recognize what did they learn when we started talking about genes. I said, what message were we conveying when we said that? And I said, well, number one, as far as we know, we didn't pick the genes we came with. Number two, if you don't like the characters you have, you can't change the genes you came with. Number three, of course, is the idea that genes turn on and off by themselves. When you put all this together, I said, what is the conclusion? The answer is that we feel we are victims of our heredity, meaning whatever was running in our family, genes were going to control those characters, and that we would have the same consequence in our lives. So if there's cancer running in a family, people start to get nervous. Oh my God, I have a cancer gene, or any kind of disease running in the family. When something runs in a family, we always connected it with genetics. That's what runs in families. Okay. But while I was teaching this victimization belief, I was also cloning stem cells. And I go, well, first of all, let's define what a stem cell is, because people have heard about them a lot. Here's the secret story, that a human body is not a one thing. It's made out of 50 trillion cells. That's a number that's so big. It's easy to say, but you can't imagine that number, 50 trillion. And I go, so what about it? I go, well, Every second, as we've just been talking right here, every second you lose over 1 million cells. You lose them actually a couple of million cells a second, dying. I go, skin cells are dying, hair's falling out, the blood cells are being replaced and all that. And I go, well, wait a minute. Every day we lose 100 billion cells. And I go, well, if that's true, then why, we should die after losing every day 100 billion, 100 billion, 100 billion, we would expect to die. I go, no, you see, because built into our cellular community, there are stem cells. And you say, well, what is a stem cell? I say, well, exactly what it is an embryonic cell. Matter of fact, the moment before you were born, I'd say, look at this cell. This is an embryonic cell. The moment after you're born, to look at the same cell, you go, oh, that's called a stem cell. So I want people to know stem cells are embryonic cells. They replace hundreds of billions of cells every day. So I am cloning a stem cell. I said, what is that? I said, I put one stem cell in a petri dish all by itself, and it divides every 10 or 12 hours. So first there's one cell, then there's two, then there's four, and then there's 8, and they double and double. And at the end of a week, there are 30,000 cells in the petri dish. I go, yeah, so what? They go, they all came from the same parent. So that means I have 30,000 genetically identical cells. So I say, well, that's not the experiment. Here's the experiment. I take those cells and split them into 3 petri dishes. So each dish has 10,000 cells, but all the dishes are genetically the same. We grow cells in a tissue culture in a fluid called culture medium. And I'm going to come back to this because it's so critical in a minute. Culture medium is a laboratory version of blood. So if I grow human cells, I say, what's human blood made out of? And then I make culture medium. If I grow rat cells, I say, what's rat blood made out of? And I grow rat cells. So I create the culture medium, which is the environment that the cells live in. It's a fluid. And I go, so what? And I say, well, I make 3 different variations. Same idea, but change the chemistry a little bit. So I have 3 different culture mediums. Let's call them ABC. I say, so what? Well, they become the environment that the cells grow in. So in dish A with culture medium A, dish B has culture medium B, and dish C has culture medium C. But they all have genetically the same cells. I say, so what was the consequence? I say, after about 3 days, dish A, the cells form muscle. Dish B, the cells form bone. And dish C, the cells form fat cells. I go, wait a minute. What controls the fate of the cells in this research? I go, well, they all have the same genes. So I say, so what was it that controlled? Why should it be bone or muscle or fat? And the answer was the culture medium chemistry, the environment was controlling the genes. The environment, I go, yeah, same genetically identical cells in different environments become different things. And all of a sudden I said, wait a minute. We were teaching genes control this, and I am seeing in the research it's the culture medium chemistry. I go, whoa, this is interesting. He goes, so what? And I go, here comes the cool part. You, as a human body, represent a skin-covered culture dish. Underneath your skin, you have 50 trillion cells growing in what? The original culture medium, blood. So I say, oh, so it's the chemistry of the blood that controls the genetics. I go, yes, whether it's the chemistry in a plastic dish or the chemistry in a skin-covered dish, the cells are being controlled by that environment. I say, so wait, my blood chemistry is controlling my genetic activity. I go, yeah. And then I say, so what? And I go, well, there's 2 questions that come from this. Actually, 3. The first one is this. The genes didn't make a decision. It was the environment that determined what genes were going to be expressed. I said, well, it's the chemistry of the culture medium. I go, yeah, so what controls the chemistry in our blood, the original culture medium? Because the blood chemistry controls our genetics. I go, yeah. And I go, The brain is the chemist. I go, okay, that's the one that puts the chemistry in the blood, and that chemistry then controls our genes. And then the most important question, what chemistry should the brain be putting into the blood? And the answer is this. And this is the most important thing in the world, people. Listen, whatever picture you have in your mind, the brain translates that picture into complementary chemistry. In other words, if you have a picture of love, the brain releases wonderful chemistry, dopamine, pleasure. That's why we feel so good when we fall in love. When you're in love, you release oxytocin into the blood, which bonds you to your lover. When you're in love, you release growth hormone into your blood. And I said, well, what is that? I said, it just says the name, growth. That's why when you fall in love, you are so healthy. People say, oh, see how in love they are. They glow. See how healthy they are. They're in love. I go, that's not an accident. That's chemistry. The chemistry of love adjusts the genetics of the body to be healthy and vital. I go, yeah, but what if I have a picture of fear? Oh, if you have a picture of fear, the brain doesn't release love chemistry. The brain releases fear chemistry. It's a different chemistry. Stress hormones, cortisol, things like that, factors that influence the immune system, stuff like that. I go, so what's the point? I say, love has one kind of chemistry in the blood, but fear has a different kind of chemistry. It doesn't support your growth. It gets you ready for protection. So wait a minute. What's the conclusion? The genes don't control you. Your thoughts control the genes. I go, well, why is that important? I go, well, the story you grew up with, you were a victim. I can't help myself. The genes are doing this. I need somebody outside to come and give me chemistry and doctor me and take care of me. I have no power. That's the old story. The new story is this. My mind is creating the chemistry, and the chemistry is creating my life, my behavior, my emotions, my responses to the world. But the chemistry is based on your thoughts. All of a sudden it says, what are you thinking? I go, why? Because your thinking is translated into genetic activity. And all of a sudden I say, well, what does that mean? I say, then you are a master of your health because you're the one that controls the thinking. And when you control the thinking, you control your genetics. Just to give you how powerful this is, let me give an important point. There's not one gene that causes cancer. Point. There's no gene. I have that gene. I'm going to get cancer. I go, no, genes don't cause cancer. Cancer is the result of not living in harmony. Your picture of the world is under stress. Your picture under fear. You're scared. Whatever it is, that chemistry activates what we call cancer genes. The cancer genes don't activate themselves. It's activated by our response to the world. I say, so why is this important? Because we've been looking at ourselves as victims, that the genes are giving me disease. I say, genes don't give you disease. Your mind, your consciousness gives you this disease. Now, my dear buddy, and I'm very proud of him, Luke, has taken this information around the world and helped people say, look, stop being a victim right now. I want you to be a master. I want you to take control of your health. You're the one that has control. It's your thoughts. You want to change your thoughts, you change your life. And this is the most important part because psychologists tell us most of our thoughts are negative. Most of our thoughts are disempowering. So I'm saying, so just walking around the street with negative thoughts, that's what gets you sick. And the idea is you can walk on the same street with positive thoughts and get healthy. And all of a sudden it says, stop being a victim and start owning how powerful you are, because you are the creator of the environment that controls the genetic activity. Living in love is health. Living in fear causes disease. And Luke has taken this message, as I said, has just done wonders around the world. So I'm honored to be here because I can talk about this as theoretical science, but Luke makes it real. Luke touches the people, touches the patients, and takes this theoretical and puts it into reality. And this is what we need to understand. And this is why I'm so happy to be here, because I really want to emphasize the wonderful healing work that Luke is doing around the world. It's not an accident. He's taking modern science and bringing it to the people and saying, let go of that old story. You're a victim and genes control your life. No, old story. New science. There's a name for it. It's called epigenetics. Well, it sounds like genetics. I go, no. Here's the old story. Cancer is caused, let's put it this way. Old story. Disease is caused by genes. Okay? So it's genetics causes disease. Because we used to say genes turn on and off, but genes can't turn on and off. It's the mind that turns the genes on and off. So the mind is above the genes. Well, the word or the beginning, epi, means above. So, what we call skin? Epidermis. I said, what does that mean? Below the skin is a layer called dermis. Above the dermis is the skin. So I said, well, what's the name for skin? Epi, above, epidermis, above the dermis. Okay. I said, what about the new science? I said, epigenetics is the new science. I said, what does it mean? Bottom line, epi means above. So this disease is controlled by epigenetics, control epi above the genes. That's the new science. Not control in the genes, control above the genes. And that's where your thoughts and your consciousness are the director of your genetic activity. And to let my friend Luke get back into the game, let me just say one more thing, and that is, how much of disease is caused by genetic problems? You ready? Less than 1%, less than 1% of all the disease is caused by genes. What causes disease? And the answer is consciousness is causing the disease. That what we are thinking, and especially when it's not in harmony, that is the cause of disease. Epi, above the genes, mind, above the genes. Mind controls genes. Change your mind, change your gene activity. And this is the message that Luke has been handing people personally, touching them and giving them the, come on, let's help you get a better consciousness, because you're the master of your genes. Thank you, Luke, for letting me say stuff.
Bruce, this is not a podcast. It just became a masterclass. So thank you for that. I love the way you start and you take us through the whole part of it that we need to understand. But you're very kind. I have to say it out here. Almost all of my success, Bruce, I owe to you. And I said this at the Maldives. I said it in front of the whole medical community there. And I'll tell you why. I studied nutrition. And I realized it was not trying to fix the problems at the level I needed it to fix people. And then with some divine guidance, I came across your work. And this was like 16 years ago. I picked up your book and I said, this is what is missing. Nutrition is the smallest part of it. So I took that leap of faith and I jumped into a whole new profession in our country where we were laughed at by the medical community, by the nutritionist community for talking about the mind and talking about everything that you taught me. And I always visualized that I would be with you one day, and it happened last year in the Maldives. So a lot of my success was able to take nutrition as a foundation block, a small one, add sleep to it, exercise to it, and then the mind, the emotional wellness. And today when people say, what's the most important part of your model when you're treating cancer and disease? They think I'm going to say nutrition, but I say it starts up here at the mind, because we've seen how people change their mind, their belief system. And it's like a miracle, the way their lab parameters change, their recovery changes, their disease changes. So I owe all of that to you, Bruce. So you're being too kind, but thank you so much.
Let's just pass the time, because where did I learn this? And the answer is the cells. I was a biologist. I studied cells, and they showed me how it worked. I didn't tell the cells, okay, genes, do your stuff. I said, cells, how do you do your stuff? And the cells revealed how they take an environment and they learn to live in harmony with that environment. You know, it's very different. The world has another belief that is totally wrong, but changes. Remember, it's our beliefs above the genes. If the beliefs are wrong above, then the body is wrong below. That's the thing. There's a belief that almost everybody follows that is so wrong and causing some of the greatest problems on this planet. And I said, what is that? And I said, the belief in Darwinian evolution theory. You go, so Darwin's theory? What the heck is that? Well, the common, if I compact Darwinian theory into one sentence, is survival of the fittest in the struggle for life. I go, so what is that? I'm saying, well, evolution is a competition. And it's survival of the fittest. So we're out there competing with each other, trying to be the best one. And I go, evolution is not based on competition. Evolution is actually based on cooperation. Where people and organisms work together in harmony is what evolution is all about. And it's complete opposite of Darwin's theory, because life is not a struggle. Life is easy. Life is a garden. You know, before we got here, there was a garden. And then I said, where'd we come from? And this is a little different than conventional or Western spirituality. It says, oh, God put us on the planet after the planet was created. I go, no, we came from the garden. We're an organism derived from the garden. We're an expression of the garden. I go, why is that relevant? I go, here's a simple statement. A garden is not a battleground. The garden is the height of cooperation. And I go, we have turned it into a battleground with Darwinian theory, competition, who could get the most and all that. The actual theory of evolution, that is the true theory, was 50 years before Darwin. People don't even know it. I go, there was a guy called Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck, French guy. I said, well, he wrote a theory. I said, yes. 50 years before Darwin, he wrote a theory. 1809, he wrote it. Darwin wrote a theory 1859. Yeah, but I said, what was Lamarck's theory? He noted something. He said, the organisms and the environment are always matched. I said, what do you mean? I go, well, you don't find roses in the Arctic. No. You don't find polar bears in Africa. I go, no. I said, what does it mean? Animals match their environment. Yeah. I said, well, is that an accident? I go, this is epigenetics. An organism comes into the environment, and the environment is influencing the genetics. That's why the organisms fit into the environment. So Lamarck didn't say competition was driving evolution. He said it was our cooperation with the environment. And if you look at the world today, we are destroying that environment based on competition. And we have to wake up, because if the environment goes, we can't be here either. And NASA, the people, the rocket people in the US, the scientists, NASA has given us a fact. You ready? Civilization as we know it right now, civilization as we know it, is going to collapse within the next 20 years. They didn't say collapse, they said irreversible collapse. I said, what does that mean? We're moving into a future, but we're not going back into the past. We have to change the way we're living and learn to live in harmony with the garden, not destroy the garden like we've been doing. And so the idea is then you're seeing the world around you in chaos. I go, what does that mean? I say, watch the news, surf the web, look outside your window. Chaos is in every country. I go, whoa, what a coincidence. Everything is in chaos. I go, it's not coincidence. It's a fact leading up to the most important fact. We cannot sustain ourselves in today's world. And I go, what do you mean? I go, if we want to keep the world running just the way it is today, it's like, I want to keep it just the way it is today. It takes 1 1.6 planet Earth to provide the resources for today's civilization. I go, wait, we only have one Earth. I go, where's the other 0.6? I said, there is no other 0.6. We're destroying the planet to keep us going at the minute without realizing the destruction will cause an end. And this is what NASA is talking about. And it basically says we have to change the way we are living. You know, the only country, this is important, Luke, the only country in the entire planet that is living in harmony, meaning it takes less than a planet to provide the resources for a community, is India. India only requires 3/4 of a planet's resources to survive. The rest of the world requires over a planet's resources to survive. There is nothing over. We have to learn. And I just wanted to bring this up for an important reason, Luke, because the world's under stress. I go, yeah, because you're seeing it falling apart. It's not working. You know it in your gut. It doesn't feel right. I say, so why is that important? Then conclusion. Remember I said 1% of disease is caused by genes? 90% of disease is caused by stress. And with the world collapsing, the stress levels are so great that we have a healthcare crisis over the whole planet because people are in stress. And we have to come out of it. And there are ways to do that. The beautiful part is Luke has identified a number of these ways. Luke has been helping people by saying, you got to change the way you're living. And he's an expert. And that's why I said, hey, I might have come up with some theory, but there's a guy who puts it into practice. And the theory is nice, but if you don't practice it, it doesn't mean anything. Even in my own life, when I understood the mechanism, I said, oh my God, you could create the most beautiful life if you understand the science. So I went out and tried to tell people, here's the science to create a beautiful life. And then they look at me and they go, you know, Lipton, your life doesn't look that good for a guy who says you know how to make a beautiful life. And I realized, oh my goodness, I'm talking the science, but I'm not living the science. I'm talking the talk. I'm not walking the talk. I said, oh my God, how can I tell people to have a good life if I'm not following what I'm saying myself? So guess what? I stopped talking about it. And I said, until I go out and experience it, I'm not going to present a lecture on this. And in the shortest time, by changing my behavior, my belief system, I created a whole new life. I have 2 lives on this planet. Before I applied the science, after I applied the science. I said, what do you mean? I said, and Luke knows me and my partner, Margaret. I've been living heaven on earth for over 28 years in a row. What does that mean? Every day when I wake up, it's like, oh my God, I'm still here. Why? This is where we create a life. And if your programming of how to create a life is not in harmony, then your programming will take you out of harmony. And disharmony is disease. And harmony is health. Do you want to be healthy? This man is my friend Luke, is taking a message from the science and theory and helping people take that message and put it into their life. Because when you do that, you can get rid of cancer, you can get rid of heart disease, you can get rid of the problems that we face. And so, as I said, some people come up with theory and some people are healers. My buddy Luke, the healer, thanks for taking this theory and showing people the validity that the theory works, that it is real, and that people can take control over their lives.
No, thank you, Bruce, for teaching it to me, for spending all those years in research and having the strength to come out in a community which was completely medical and talk about this particular point. I think that required so much of courage and strength, especially back then in that time. And I am going to come back to that and ask you your challenges over there. But you are right, because when I read your work 13 years ago, India was beginning to become the diabetic capital of the country. And people would assume that type 2 diabetes, it was hereditary. If your parents had it, you would have it. And once I read your message, I started to look at this. But the only thing they were inheriting was the poor lifestyle that their parents were living. And because their parents had diabetes because of poor lifestyle, and the kid was learning the same lifestyle, which now became their lifestyle as an adult, they had the same consequences, which was type 2 diabetes. So we started to talk about these things and kind of prove to people that, hey, even if it runs in your family, if you change your lifestyle, it doesn't have to be the same as your parents, which includes your mind and your belief systems, because a lot of parents lived at the time when we were controlled by the British. We were a colony. So the way the thinking of people at that point kind of transferred down as trauma to the families below that don't speak up, don't say this, be afraid. Fear was the way to get things done. But now we're realizing, because of your message, that we can change all of these things. And I love what you said about fear, because when a cancer patient comes to us, the first thing we do before even talking about treatment is work with the fear. Because having the fear and doing the best chemo and nutrition isn't really going to help. So thank you for that, Bruce. And I also do want to talk about Margaret and what your partner, Margaret, such an amazing woman, and what you said about living heaven on earth. I saw that for 10 days. I was with you for 10 days. And not just me, but everyone on the island was like, what is this love story unfolding in front of us? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner over and over again. They're not faking it. They are so, so much in love. I would love to talk about love. I would love to talk about the honeymoon effect, because I'll tell you, one major part of stress in people's life today is love and relationships, breakups, betrayal, hurt. And like you said, this also leads to a lot of anger. And I believe it, I completely resonate with what you're saying. There's so much of chaos in the world. I see so much of anger in people. And that anger is bringing out the wrong behaviors and everything else. A lot of it stems even from relationships. And we know the highest vibration is love. You wrote a beautiful, beautiful book on the honeymoon effect. I would love for you to give advice to anyone watching this who's in a relationship that may not be going too well for them, maybe out of a relationship, on the way out of a relationship. I would love for you to talk about the honeymoon effect.
I love talking about it for a very simple reason, that for over 40 years, almost 50 years, I couldn't even get a good relationship in my life. It just didn't work. But then I started to understand something about the new biology. I go, what is it? Remember I said the mind is controlling the chemistry, which then controls our genetics. And I said, well, the mind is a computer. And I go, yeah, it is a computer, and it has the same functions. I say, in the old days, you would buy a computer and you bring it home and you push start and the screen lights up. We say, the computer is booted up and ready to go. And I say, okay, now do something. Write a story or make a picture. He said, no, I can't. I say, you got a brand new computer. What do you mean you can't write? He said, first I have to put programs in the computer so I can access the computer. And I go, this is the same thing about the human brain. The screen in your brain lights up 3 months before you're born, and it's ready to go. This computer says, I'm ready. From 3 months before you're born to age 7 is when programs are installed into your belief system. And these are the fundamental programs, like the hard drive in your computer. They got program is the right word, program. Okay. I said, well, what do you mean program? I go, look, a child has to quickly learn how to be a member of a family. There are rules and things you can do and things you can't do. And that's what growing up is. Oh, don't do this. Okay, do this. Don't do that. And then you also have to learn how to live in the community. I go, well, how many rules do you have to know? I go, thousands of rules. I go, how's a child going to learn 1,000 rules? They can't go to school. They're an infant. They can't read a book. They can't sit in a class. How are we going to teach them? I say, nature designed the first 7 years of life where the brain is not operating at the higher vibrations, we say, of consciousness. It's at a lower vibration, technically called theta. That's just below consciousness. I go, what about theta? I say, well, theta is imagination. I say, yeah, that's how children, they ride a broom and they say it's a horse. And the mother says, give me the broom. But in the child's mind, theta, it's not a broom. It actually is a horse. Or I love the tea party. They pour nothing into the cup. They drink nothing. And then, oh, that was the best tea I ever had. Theta, mixing imagination and real world. That's first 7 years. But here's the point. Theta is hypnosis. I go, what do you mean? I need to learn the programs. I said, how am I going to learn? And the answer is this. A child watches the mother, the father, the brothers, sisters. The child watches the community, but it's like a video recorder. What they see, the behavior, is downloaded into the subconscious, the hard drive. I say, so what? I say, well, this is where we get our patterns. Let me give you an important story for our audience. There's not one gene that causes cancer. There's no gene, you got this gene, you automatically get cancer. I go, no. I say, especially that women understand they're so afraid of the breast cancer gene because we make them afraid. We tell them, oh, the breast cancer gene causes cancer. I go, no, it doesn't. I go, what do you mean? I said, half the women that have breast cancer gene don't get cancer. So I said, why is that important? Well, if the gene caused cancer, they should have cancer. I say, what causes cancer? Now listen to this. This was a study. Excuse me. They followed what happens when a child is adopted into a family where there's cancer running in the family. It turns out the adopted child will get the same family cancer. But the adopted child has totally different genetics. Then you have to say to them, where in the world did the cancer come from? It was the downloading of those programs of behavior in the first 7 years. I said where the brain is in a state of hypnosis. It watches. And if the parent has a bad behavior, then the child records it because it doesn't know good from bad, just records behavior. And that's how things get passed through a family. So cancer was passed to the adopted child, not by genetics, but by behavior. If you change behavior, you change genetics, okay? So we're really coming to an understanding that we all got programmed. Yeah. Why? Because every child needs to be programmed to get the brain ready to use it. You can't use a computer without program. Now, I'll give you an example where I had a problem. My father and mother did not have a healthy relationship. It was dysfunctional. But I'm a kid, a baby, growing up. And my program in my brain is to watch my father because he's the model for my life. And I downloaded my father's behaviors, including his relationship behaviors. I go, so what? Well, those relationship behaviors were dysfunctional. He and my mother did not have a good relationship. So I say, so what do you think I downloaded into my program? Dysfunctional relationship. I go, so what do you mean? Well, here's a number, and we can come back to it. And Luke knows this so importantly. And I said, what is this number? 95% of the day, your life is controlled by the programs you downloaded. Only 5% of the day are you creating what you want. 95% of the day, you are playing the programs you got in that first 7 years. But you don't see the programs when you play them. Well, that doesn't make any sense. I go, yes, it does. Here's why. The conscious mind, which is the one connected to your spirituality, is creative. The subconscious mind is programmed. The conscious mind has your wishes and desires. I want to be healthy. I want to have a great relationship. I want to have a good job. I go, yeah, that's creative thinking. But the conscious mind can do two things. And this is where the world comes down to important. I said, what do you mean? The conscious mind can look at your eyes and look at the world. Imagine your body is like a vehicle with a steering wheel. When the conscious mind is looking out, it's taking you to what? Wishes and desires. Let's go here. Let's go here. Wishes and desires. But when the conscious mind is thinking, it's not looking out the window. A thought is inside. So, for example, I could say, hey, Luke, today's Tuesday. What are you doing on Thursday? And Luke, in a minute or so or less, will say, oh, on Thursday, I'm doing this and this. And I said, where did you find that? Oh, I thought about it, Luke says. I said, what does that mean? Conscious is thinking, it's looking inside. Thoughts are inside. So when I'm thinking, my attention is not looking out the window. My attention is looking inside. Yeah, but what if you're driving the car and you start thinking? I said, you're not looking out the window. I said, don't worry. The subconscious programs are autopilot. What does that mean? It says, well, if you're not paying attention, the subconscious will do it. I said, driving a car. I go, yeah, the subconscious, that's a program. You know how to drive. You learning a program how to drive a car. So if you start thinking when you're driving the car, guess what? The program subconscious takes over and you drive the car according to the program. Now, let's say Luke and I are in the car and we're having this great discussion. I let Luke talk when we have a discussion. When we have a discussion and I say, and it's so exciting. And I'm driving the car and we're talking and talking. And then I look out the window and I say, oh my goodness, we're at the exit. I say, oh, I didn't even pay attention to the road. I was talking to you, and now we're at the exit. I go, so what's the point? Now listen to this. 2 questions, and the whole world is based on this. Question number 1. Bruce, what were you and Luke talking about? Oh, we were talking about this and this and this. Question number 2. What was on the road when you and Luke were talking? I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. I was paying attention to Luke. I said, you mean you drove the car and you didn't pay attention? I said, no. Then who drove the car? I say, the program, which is a better driver than me anyway. The program drove the car. I say, so you didn't see what you were doing when you were having a discussion? I go, no. And I go, aha. I go, what's the point? When we're not paying attention because we're thinking or we're engaged in some way, we're not paying attention and the autopilot steps in, like driving the car. Did I see how the car was driven? No. Did I see what was on the road? No. So wait, I didn't see my behavior when I was talking to Luke and I was driving the car. I didn't see what I was doing. I go, well, who did? I said, subconscious. Okay, so what does all this mean? And this is the biggest issue that Luke has to help people with. And I go, what is it? When you are thinking, it's 95% of the day. So when you are thinking, you're not paying attention to what's going on the outside. Yeah, but if I'm walking or talking or driving the car or doing those things, I say, yeah, my subconscious program ran it. I said, where'd you get the program? Well, in my case, let's say my behavior with partners, I got that from watching my father. So if I'm not paying attention, the program of relationship is the program I downloaded from my father, which was not good, dysfunctional. And for almost 50 years, I tried to get a relationship, but I didn't see that when I was thinking 95% of the day, the behavior that was coming out was not helping me get a relationship. It was actually destroying my relationship. So I go, so what was the point? When you are thinking, you do not see your own behavior. I go, yeah, but if your own behavior, you got it from somebody else and it's not your behavior, it's their behavior. And if they gave you a dysfunctional behavior, then During the day, you are not even seeing, you're sabotaging yourself. I go, what's the point? Our lives aren't coming from our wishes and desires. Our lives are coming from our programs. And I go, and 60% or more of those programs are disempowering, self-sabotaging, or limiting programs. And you don't see it, but everybody else does. I go, what do you mean? I go, famous story I've been telling for 40 years, and Luke's probably heard it 30 times, but let me just say it. You have a friend, you know your friend's behavior very well. Your friend, you know your friend's behavior, and you know your friend's parent. And one day you see your friend has the same behavior that the parent has. So you say to your friend, hey, Bill, you're just like your father. And then I say, back away from Bill. Because you know what Bill's going to say, and you heard. He would say, how can you compare me to my father? I'm nothing like my father. And I go, everyone else can see that Bill behaves like his father because he's playing the program that his father, that he downloaded from his father. But why doesn't Bill see it? Because why is he playing the program? Because he's not paying attention. So whatever program is coming out, Bill's thinking about something, but he's not seeing the program. And therefore, he's sabotaging his life, and he's the one that can't see it, but everybody else does. And they respond to his program. And then someday Bill wakes up and says, I don't like my life. It's not working right. And I go, why, Bill? And he says, well, those people interfere with my life. And I go, oh, you didn't see that you were creating that behavior first. They were responding to you. And I say, what's the point? You are not creating the life you want. You are creating the life you've been programmed to create. And this is why people grow up like their parents. It's not the genes. It's the programming that is passed from generation to generation. Cancer is a program. Cancer is not a gene. Change the program and the cancer will disappear. But that sounds very nice theoretically. And then I say, yeah, but turn it over to someone like Luke, a practitioner who can help people change those programs, help them observe the program, help them give a new program. I said, what's the result? That's why he's a healer. That's why when Luke interacts with a patient, he helps them overcome the belief systems. He helps them overcome the programming. I had to do this myself with my relationship program. Why? I downloaded my father's bad behavior and played it for almost 50 years. But once I knew that behavior that was invisible was sabotaging me, I changed the program. And I changed it into a program of seeking love and happiness and desire. And when I changed the program, what do you think I found? Love, happiness, desire. So much so I wrote a book, as Luke mentioned, The Honeymoon Effect. I've been living a honeymoon every day of my life for 28 years. Why? My program is creating a honeymoon world for me. And just to close that little piece, there's a movie many of you have seen called The Matrix. I go, what about it? I say, well, people say it's science fiction. I go, no. The Matrix is a documentary. I go, yeah. I said, why? What is the premise of the story? The story says we're all programmed. I go, well, that's the truth. That's true. All of us got programmed in the first 7 years. But also they said you could take a red pill and get out of the program. Guess what science has found? You ready? Falling in love is the red pill. I go, what do you mean? I go, your life could be blah, 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 blah. And then you meet somebody 24 hours later of falling in love. 24 hours later, there's a whole new life. It's called the honeymoon. I say, what's the honeymoon? Heaven on earth. I say, you mean your life was blah, 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 and then you fell in love, and 24 hours later, it was honeymoon? I go, why? Because falling in love keeps you from thinking. You stay mindful. You stay present, meaning I'm not thinking. I say, why would you think, which takes you away, when what you've been looking for, a partner, is right in front of your face? So guess what? When we fall in love, science says we stop thinking. I say, yeah, but it was when we were thinking when the program played. If we're not thinking, then who's running the show? You ready? The creative conscious mind. I say, what's that? The creative mind? Wishes and desires. What do you think the honeymoon is? Manifesting wishes and desires because you stop playing the program. And so, is heaven on earth here? Yeah, every day, unless your program takes you away from it. And that's where Luke puts his hands on it and says, let's work that program. And he is my hero in that regard because I can talk about people changing, but Luke manifests change in people by empowering them with knowledge of the biology of belief.
Bruce, all I can say is thank you. I've learned all of this from you. I am who I am because of your teachings. So I really mean that from my heart. But Bruce, going back to what you said, the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, our audience is vast, spread over the world, a lot of it being India. Right now, I know everyone's thinking, what would Bruce tell us to do if we want to start making these changes in the program, the subconscious mind, the conscious mind? So I would love for you to teach us what we can do, what anyone in the audience could do to start off on that journey right away.
Okay, well, in a short term, because there's a little bit of explanation, but you're the practitioner. So when it comes down to saying, okay, take Bruce's words, make it real, you can follow that part, but I'll give you the overview. The first thing is this. I said we got programmed. And I said, when? I said, before we were born, 3 months and up through age 7. So let me ask a question to you out in the audience. What program did you learn when you were in the womb? Oh, you have no memory. Oh, no, because your conscious wasn't working. Oh, well, you were programmed a whole year from 0 to 1. Tell me the program. Oh, you don't know the program. Why? You weren't conscious. The programs were going in, and you're not even aware of the programs. Tell me another whole year from 1 to 2. What programs did you get? I don't know. Why? You weren't conscious. Around 3 or 4. You can say, oh, I remember the behavior. I remember the experience. But before that, you don't. I say, you were programmed without having any idea what the programs are. I said, well, then how can you change a program? You don't know what the program is. I go, your life is 95% program. Your life is a printout of your programs in your subconscious. I go, what does that mean? I say, question this. Recognize a fact. The things you like that come into your life, oh, I love that, and here it is, and I love, and it's come, here it is. You have it because the program allows you to have that. The program supports you. But this is the one I want you to pay attention to. The things that you desire and want, and you have to work hard and stress over it. I'm going to make it happen. I'm working. I'm going to make it real. I'm going to, create this. I'm going to make it. Question. Why are you working so hard to get to that destination? And here's the answer, folks. Whatever you're trying to get to and you find it's a struggle to get there, it's not because you can't have it. It's because your program doesn't let you have it. And all of a sudden it says, well, then what? Look at your life. You don't have to change everything. Why? A lot of the good things coming in, you already got programmed for those. What do you have to change? You have to identify, where am I struggling? Because the struggle is a sign of a program that's not letting you go to where you want to go. So all of a sudden I say, well, what are your programs? Now just look at your life and go, I wanted to be healthy. I'm not healthy, and I keep trying. I go, okay, that's one issue. Oh, I wanted to make more money on a better job, but I'm not getting good jobs. I go, why? Programming is taking you away from that, okay? Relationships, like I couldn't get a relationship. Why? my programming, which I didn't see 95% of the day, sabotaged me from that. So the first important thing is this: what are your programs? Well, that's up to you to see because it's your life right now. But I can tell you very simply, if you're struggling to get something, it's not because you can't have it. It's because your program doesn't let you have it. And the things you have, you don't have to worry about that because the program gave you what you already have. So this is the issue. And I say, well, how do you change the program if you have a bad program? I say, well, how did you get a program? First step. How did I get a program? First 7 years, my brain was functioning in a lower vibration called theta. Theta is hypnosis. So I go, so what? That's how you downloaded things. You just watch, download, watch, download. Okay. And I go, so you want to change a program? Hypnosis. I go, oh, do I have to see a hypnotherapist? I go, this is the cool part. The vibration of the brain, the higher it is, the more conscious you are. The lower it is, the less conscious you are. So during the day, you're working up at high consciousness. But when you go home and you start to relax, that takes you to a lower consciousness. That's called alpha, calm consciousness. But the moment you're in bed and you fall asleep, where you disconnect from the world, here I am, boom, I fell asleep, I'm not here. I go, what happens when you fall asleep? The first thing is this: the vibration drops out of consciousness, and guess what? Now it's in theta, the next lower vibration. Oh, but theta is hypnosis. I go, yeah, so guess what? You get a program you want to experience in your life to be part of your life. You put it into a computer, okay? And I say, so what? At night, you put earbuds or earphones on your head. And just before you fall asleep, you start to hear the program. And the program is giving you very positive vibration, positive ideas, very positive. I say, for a moment, you might hear the program because you're still awake. But in a short moment, you're sleeping. I go, yeah, but your subconscious is in theta. And for a period of time, right after you fall asleep, whatever's coming in your ears is going into your program. So it's called self-hypnosis. Change your life, put a new program on when you go to bed, and repeat this every night for a while, because it's not a long period of theta. It's a short period. And then you go to the next lowest vibration, which is sleep, delta. So every night when you go to bed, there's a short period of self-hypnosis just after your eyes close and you're asleep. And whatever's coming in your ears is going in, and you repeat the program, and it will then become a program in your subconscious. You can change the program, okay? Number one, self-hypnosis. Number two, after age 7, you can create new programs, not through hypnosis, but through practice. In other words, you want to drive a car? Practice driving a car. You want to play a music instrument? Practice playing a music instrument. You want to change your life? Practice a new behavior. I said, what do you mean? Practice, repetition is what causes the subconscious to take a new program. It becomes a habit. That's what the subconscious is, habits. You want to make a new habit? Then practice something. And the more you practice it, the more it becomes a program. So the second way of writing a program is the second way you learn a program, practicing a new behavior. Okay? And the last way, which is something new, and to me is very exciting, and Luke is a wizard at helping with this, is called energy psychology, where you can psychologically rewrite these programs very quickly using different techniques that rapidly change the program, not conventional psychology. You say, oh, well, in my history, my mom did this and my other friends did that, and you could cry about all the bad things that led you to today. And I say, so do I need to go back in history to change the program? I say, no, you have the program now. History is what gave you the program. Do I have to replay the history? I say, no. Because if you replay the history, you make the program stronger. So I say, what do? You start with what I said right now. What is your program? And then rewrite that program for the future. And this is called energy psychology. And there are so many ways of doing this on my website. Very simple, brucelipton.com. Under resources is belief change, energy psychology, ways of doing it. A whole bunch of different ways. There's a paragraph on each way of doing it and a website of how to get in touch with the practice and how to do it. But I let my buddy Luke do all this because I can talk about the theory. I'll let Luke carry the weight. I got the light stuff. Oh, the theory is really nice. Luke has to carry people around and help them. So I have the easier of the two jobs.
Still a student, still learning. Yeah, I advise people to go to the website, and we'll put that in the footnotes as well. Now, Bruce, this has been amazing. I want to ask you one tip, your years of experience. Okay, one tip for parents out there, for teenagers, for people who are sick, and for people who are struggling with love. I can break that down. I just want to get that one tip for each of them.
Okay. There's a very interesting thing that happened in my life that became a lesson that was the most important lesson I learned. I said, what is it? I say, during that first 7 years of programming, we get criticized as children. Parents are saying, oh, that's not good enough. Oh, don't do that. You don't deserve this. You're not good at this. And parents are saying that not because they want to make you feel bad. They're like a coach on a sports team. If a player isn't doing well, the coach doesn't go, oh, please do better. No, the coach says, that's not good enough. You do better. You work harder. And an older child understands what the coach is saying and say, oh, okay, I'm not working hard. I'll work harder. If a child is under 7 and the parent acts as a coach, that's not good enough. That doesn't mean that parent says, oh, your whole life you're not good enough. They just said it because at that time you were not behaving good enough. But you're under 7. I say, so what? I say, when your parent said not good enough, you didn't understand what they meant, but you copied the words. It's because you were in record. That's the first 7 years, hypnosis. So what did I record? My father was trying to tell me to do better. He said not good enough. What did I write in my program? I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I'm not deserving. Parents didn't mean that's your whole life. They were just at that time upset and said these things, but they didn't know that when you're a child under 7, the words just get recorded. The words are recorded in the subconscious. So I started to realize one day I was working in my laboratory and things didn't go well. And I was doing an experiment and it took hours, 2 hours or more to set up the experiment. And then when I start the experiment, if I do something wrong, the whole thing crashes and I got to do it again. And this is now a day where 3 times during the day, I set up the experiment. And 3 times just when I was starting to do the experiment, I screwed it up and had to do it again. And so I spent the entire day building up the experiment, failing the experiment, building it up, failing. And at the end of the day, I was so mad at myself. I started yelling at myself in my mind. That's not good enough. You're so stupid, Lipton. You can't do anything right. I was playing programs that I had when I was 7 years old. And I'm getting worse. I'm getting depressed. And all of a sudden I start going downhill. Well, no, it's not good enough. I'm not good enough. Blah, blah, blah. I was getting depressed. And right in the middle of that depression on this one day, I was going, oh, you idiot. You can't even do this stupid experiment, blah, blah, blah. And I hear a voice. And I have to tell you, I'm the only one in the room. And I hear a voice like somebody's standing right in front of me. And the voice said, don't you have anything better to do than to listen to this crap? I thought about it for a second. I said, sure, I'd rather go see a movie than hear this. And so I started laughing. Don't I have anything better to do? Yeah, a movie. So I looked in a newspaper. There was a movie that I said, I'm going to go. I left the lab, went to the movie, came out of the movie, and guess what? I wasn't upset anymore. All of a sudden, what did I do? I stopped the talk by saying, stop, go do something else. Do something else. And it reminded me when I was young, there was a television show with a comedian by the name of Bob Newhart, and he was a psychologist. And the show was somebody would come into his office and they'd sit across his desk and they'd go, and complain about not working. And he was a psychologist and he listened for a minute and then has said the same thing to every patient. Just stop it. Just stop, And it was always funny because he just said, stop it. And that day in that lab, the voice essentially said, do something else, man. Don't listen to this. And I stopped. And the next time I started to have a depression, the words came, I started to laugh, and I said, stop, go do something else. About 3 times that happened. And get ready. I haven't been angry or depressed for 30 years. Why? Because if it starts to show up, my mind immediately says, let go do something else. Most of us sit there and stew. I go, no, let go do something else. Because your mind is going to manifest what you're focusing on. When I was focusing on I'm not good enough, I wasn't good enough. When I was focusing on I screw things up, I screwed things up. Why? My mind was creating my behavior. And all of a sudden I started to realize how simple it was. When I started to go anything negative, my mind learned from doing it a few times. The moment I would start to go off in a negative way, the mind says, stop, turn around, go this way. So anytime something could have gotten me upset, my mind automatically says, nah, go on to do something else. 30 years, I haven't been angry. And it used to be part of my life all the time. And I am, happy. 30 years? 100%. If you can go back to a time where you experienced love, even if it was only a week, there was that time during that week where life was heaven on earth. Why? Because you were happy. And guess what? I live heaven on earth every day. Why? I had to rewrite the programs, the matrix. I had some bad programs. My father's program, that had to be rewritten right away. Shortly after I changed the program and put in a better relationship program, I met my partner, Margaret. And that's why I said, we're together 28 years, just like we fell in love yesterday. Why? Program. Luke knows this. Luke has taken the program in his life. And one of his major programs, which I'm so proud of, is he wants to help the world. And he's taken his program, and now he goes around the world offering people the knowledge of self-empowerment, the knowledge of how you can create what you want. He's a model for the biology of belief. He's taken that biology of belief and created a fabulous life. So listen to this young guy. He's actually doing it. Thank you, Luke.
Bruce, thank you. You've given us more tips than required for every aspect of our life. It's been such a pleasure. I don't know when we're going to meet again, but I know it's going to be soon, somewhere across the world. I think this has been so inspirational, so many lessons. Like I said, all I have to do is to say thank you to you, because you've changed my life and you've given me permission through your work to change the lives of other people. And it's been spectacular. It's been spectacular.
I
Thank you
know
so
it.
much.
And I'm so proud of you, because every time, where's Luke? Oh, he's in New York. Where's Luke? He's over there in Australia. He's in the Middle East. Where? Why? Because you're so good at understanding the science as a practitioner of that science, that people around the world are seeking you out. Not an accident. It's not an accident. It's self-empowerment. And that is the biology of belief, self-empowerment.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you so much. Give my love to Margaret, and I know our paths will cross soon. Thank you so much for your time. so much for your knowledge and so much of years of work that you've done that's translated into healing of so many people. Thank you.
I love you, Luke. Thank you so much for helping the world evolve, my dear friend. We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thank you.
Stay tuned for more. We're going to continue our journey, learning, sharing, and evolving.